Good morning. Welcome to the Florida Council meeting. My name is Don Hill. If you haven't met me yet. What I want to talk about is IEEE is going to a product to help you with your bookkeeping section, the council, society, all those different levels of people that do L50s. You know that nice form you fill out at the first month of the year? Tells about everything that you've done monetarily throughout the year. NetSuite is the product that they've elected to go to. And they've looked at all the different platforms. NetSuite is a product that does not require you to have any product on your laptop or on your PC. It's a cloud-based system. And so all you'll be doing is, most of you have already been assigned temporary passwords and login IDs. Every section, every council has been, every society that filled out an L50 last year will already have had that put in place. And those will be rolled out roughly December 16th. Yes.
Is that just for the treasurer, or is it for the section chair as well?
It will be for the treasurer. The IEEE is paying a site license for every person that logs on. There is no universal overlying all access. So the treasurer, or the person that's assigned this, the treasurer's duties, will be the person that will have that responsibility to open the file, you go in and put in the 2011 data into the system. Now you can do it, if you did it last year, it's very similar, except it's done instead of with, like they did it like Excel and with the background. This year it's going to be done with NetSuites, and you'll log in and do it that way.
Don, I have another question. What did this say? Are we prevented from sharing the login data with other people then?
There is sensitive data in there asking about your password, because you're immediately, once you log in, you have to change your password. So it would be a personalized password. The data and the questions that are in there are personal to you. So if you want to share that information and you want to share that password, you can. They prefer that you not, because there's a report suite as part of the package. You can go into the report section and export by email, PDF, or whatever. You can export all those reports that people want to see to email lists that you want to. So there are mechanisms to avoid that.
I think if the treasurer were down for some reason and unable to get that, somebody else be able to go in and do stuff.
That's correct.
With like back problems.
Yeah,
or something like that.
Back problems or something like that.
Just
or off to Australia or to Africa.
after the back problems mysteriously went away. Just saying. Just
good meds. Okay, so this is where we're headed. You did it last year without NetSuites, but you did the same process. You won't notice much difference other than the login procedure and how it's captured. There will be a rollout, and I didn't find my slides on here, but I will, yes.
I'm sorry, quick question, Don. So in the Excel spreadsheet that we filled out last year, there was a series of tabs and a series of information that had to be entered. Are you saying that in NetSuite, effectively, it'll be the same information that it'll look the same to us? I don't care if it looks exactly like Excel, but it'll be the same information that needs to be entered as per last year?
That is correct.
Okay, gotcha.
So if you entered 20 pieces of information last year, you'll enter that similar 20 spots into the new NetSuite.
Just gotta find where it goes in this.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Will we do some kind of digital signature then on those, or how does that work?
There is, yes. And this year, I can't remember if last year, you can correct me, there's a part of L50 that tells you that, or where you swear that you haven't done anything illegal and you're, et cetera, you know, the two
Conflict
forms.
of interest thing.
Conflict of interest. And there's one other form, but those two forms are now separate from the L50 starting this year. So you'll do those in a separate location and in the same time frame, but you'll do them at the same time. Go ahead.
Bless you.
And there's more to come.
So there's where the excitement is. And the NetSuites, if you've ever done QuickBooks, if you've ever done any Quicken or any of those, it's a similar product. The IEEE has set up in the NetSuites all the accounts that you see, the A.1.2, the B.5.20, and all those different account numbers that you use. normally to fill out the L50, and those will go into the system just like they have in the past. You can, starting this year, as of the 15th or 16th, or you can wait till January 1, but you can start actually writing checks on the system. You can order checks and put them into the printer, and when you create the check, it'll go and then out the side, and you can hand it or mail it to whoever. You can still do back office checks and then enter the information afterward. So that's a system that you can adapt either way. So that's, yes, Jim?
I'm sorry, so I was with you as far as using the tool for L50 reporting.
I moved off that.
You've moved off that. So it seems like this is more of a complete treasurer tool. Is that what I'm picking up
That
on?
is correct.
I apologize, I missed
There's a
that.
couple for a concentration account, it sounds like.
Yes, if you have you actually index and see your concentration account, like if you're writing a check, you tell it to write it from this concentration account, and then it will draw the money from there, and it puts it against a ledger account that you are drawing the funds for. And if you do that on a daily basis or monthly basis and keep your records in the NetSuite, guess what? Next year there is no L50. The L50 becomes part of the process. So you filled in all the blanks by actually doing the data along the way.
Will the NetSuite tool have access to the long-term savings accounts?
Yes.
Okay, so is it a dashboard?
If you have an account, it will give you access to each of your accounts inside it.
Which comes down to the ultimate question, does it produce a report that'll tell me the status of my checking account and my long-term? Or how much money do I have, effectively?
Okay. Essentially, yes.
Okay.
Because you can do reconciliation inside this, which will tell you how much money you have.
Okay.
And hopefully, yes.
Will it allow you, like Quicken does, to print out reports that'll go into a spreadsheet?
Yes.
Is that, as far as, I know Quicken is almost useless, but except for that one thing. You put all the data in it, and now you could, because at least in my section, there's a lot of information, like how much was in the account each month, you know?
Yes.
And Quicken doesn't do that for some idiot reason. You know, you'd think half a brain, that would be one of the main things you want to know, you know?
Well,
My balance at the end of the month.
Right. If your account has an interest hitting it on the first day of the month, then that should give you an entry at the first day of the month that would give you the balance, a running balance throughout. If you have no other transactions, that would give you the interest. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I always put it in a spreadsheet, so that at the end of each month, you can see, this is the beginning balance, this is the ending balance, and just auto-fill that across. But,
Good.
But, you know, the people here like to see, well, did the balance go up and down, and how did it go, and what's up here?
Right. Rebate, yes.
You know, we're getting ready for SoutheastCon 2013. We'll be opening a checking account shortly, a concentration account. We can use the same program for that as well then?
You can. It's not built for it specifically because it's geared otherwise, but yes, you will be able, if you have a concentration account, you should be able to open one. It's not been set up for those people yet for
Okay.
conferences.
So this will be
But by application, you can request one, and then you can, they're working on all the details for conferences as we speak. So, George?
There is a website, netsuite.com,
Yes.
which has a product tour, a description of the package generally, and a white paper.
He's good, isn't he?
Could you repeat the website for
So
the video?
once you get information about NETSUITE.com.
Visit over here. George, would you tell us again what the website is?
Yeah, NETSUITE.com, netsuite.com.
Thank you.
Of course he's good, Don. He's a former Florida Council chair.
I think everybody here is, isn't they?
Okay. So we've talked about the fact that NetSuite's going to take care of your L50 this year. There's no paper copy like in the old days. You can create your L50 in stages. So like if you get to the first 6 entries and then all of a sudden you have a phone call or a family event, then you can just do a temporary save, step away for a day, a week, or a month, and then come back to it. And then, of course, you all want to finish your L50 before the end of what is it, normally about the third week of February.
Yeah, February.
So that is the magic date if you want your extra 10% rebate. So, let's see, what else can we talk about? There are a set of slides and information that I will share with Jim, and then he will share with all of you. And it goes through step by step how to do this entry, this entry, this entry. There's also, headquarters is going to roll out a whole set of this information later in the month. So you're going to be ahead of the game because you're going to have this information so you can look at it and go with it.
So effectively, Don, NetSuite is the tool that sections and councils in IEEE USA?
Every
IEEE globally, I guess.
If you've ever filled out an L50, you will be assigned a NetSuite account.
Gotcha, okay. Assuming that, so that means that you're treasurer.
So if some sections have their societies, some sections have their societies underneath the section, and that is actually the preferred method with IEEE. Some sections have their societies separate from and fill out their own L50s. And so whichever the case was last year, that's who will be given access this year.
Gotcha, and it's to be used for L50s, but also for, you can do your checkbook activities.
Yes.
It also gives you a report on your long-term savings. It's really your dashboard into the finances of your part of the organization.
That is correct.
Okay.
It will actually let you do budgets. So you can do your budget entry, and then you can track your budget against your expenses. And the only downfall with that is it's based on a per month basis. So if you spend $1,000 on donuts and soda pop during the year, then if you only do it like 3 times, it's going to want you to spend it throughout the year, month by month. You can tweak it a little bit and play the game with them and work behind the scenes to make it spread out for you. But, yes, Jim?
A couple of questions. A lot of times we have seminars, and in those seminars we get checks, we get cash. We turn the checks over to our treasurer. The cash we collect and send one check to the treasurer. We also at times pay the catering bill out of cash. So the catering bill never goes through the L50. It's all, what you basically see is all income and no expense. But there was expense because it was paid in cash.
You can do that with a back office entry
Okay.
as to, through an entry, a journal entry that you did a plus and a minus
We do
against.
counteracting entries, right?
And that would take care of your ability to show that you did have an expense and you had an income.
Is it important to show we had an expense? We don't care.
It's not, to me, it's not that important.
But if you want to know how your conferences are running in terms of how much you're spending and stuff, it'd be good to keep that documented. Now, one thing that Quicken does that I like is that you can sort transactions by the payee and other ways as well. Can this do that as well?
Similar ways. Each of you, like if I'm going to be setting it up in the next few weeks, each of you, if I ever write you a check, will become a client or a customer, if you will, inside the system. And you'll be entered into the system. The problem there becomes that if you work or do volunteer work for another IEEE entity and they also owe you, then you will be needed in there possibly once, possibly multiple times. So every entry that you enter, like if I were going to write a check to Jim, then I would put a special letter in front of his name that would identify it as me, that I've entered it for him here as this entity. Whereas if you were going to write him a check, you would do it at your level and put it in as a special entity. There is an email system inside there. There's a notification system inside there. You can put, the treasurer can set up timelines that I'm supposed to send, like you were talking about reports once a month. You can put a trigger in there that every month it sends you an email or a notice that says send a report, send a report, send a report, and it will do that, or ping you. It won't send the report, but it will tell you to send the report. So it's a timeline that you can put in there. Except, yes?
We do it the old way this year, and then next year we start with it.
You'll do it a way similar to the way you did it last year, but it will be inside NetSuite.
Right, so don't do an Excel spreadsheet this year. Do it in NetSuite. Would be the
Unless you need to do it on your own for just getting your numbers together or something. I don't know how you accumulate your
Our
numbers.
section is very simple, so it's not, no big deal. But
Okay.
I see a lot of, I can see the section is very, all sorts of things going on.
Yeah. Other question? So we talked about budgets, we talked about the L50. Your rebates will be back in the April, May timeframe like they've always been. So everything is in that shape.
As I recall, Don, the L50, the section chair has to sign off on it
Yes, it will be done electronically through the system.
through the
There is
system.
no hard copy.
But he or she
He or
will have a
she.
chance to review it
Yes,
before they sign it.
that is correct.
Which actually brings up a very interesting point, because you did an excellent job of explaining to us that the system will have an account for everybody who's filed an L50, which is great, which is probably the treasurer in the section. For the chairman who has not filed an L50, for them to sign off in the system, I guess they would need to have an account
A
also,
login of some point, don't they?
of some sort. Or-
There, I don't remember the detail on that.
Okay,
But there is a procedure for it.
so be it.
And,
Okay.
we've discussed it in just very brief terms, and I don't remember the answer.
Somehow they're able to do it-
They can email you a secret link, so when you hit that link, it takes you to the page.
What, a lot of different ways to do it. Okay, somehow the chairman will sign off through the system, and
That is correct.
we'll go from there. Okay, that's cool. All right.
And as in the past, you have, if you're changing chairs, then you have the past chair and the new chair, and you have the past treasurer and the new treasurer. And if they're the same, then it's just one and the same.
Right.
Sign on. So up to 4 signatures. Yes, sir.
I've always questioned the security of that. Let's suppose I was a nefarious person and I wanted to put my section chair signature there. How would the IEEE know that it was not really his? He had never even seen it.
Well, in theory, with the paper L50, you could have done that for years. But you're a very honest person, and you
No,
wouldn't.
but the paper one, he actually took it. and
You can compare the signature.
The signature was there.
He's left-handed and you're right-handed,
Yeah.
so it would be very clear quickly because it would slant differently. So that would be how you figure that one out. So I read
But
something
how do
about
you do it on his computer? I mean, like, I sent an expense report in last time.
Nowadays, I think it's going to come from his email account or something like that. So you'd have to log onto his email and respond as him, which is much more than nefarious.
And then he uses his password so nobody else can do that.
That is exactly correct.
That's a smart.
Which, of course, is password. So that's not really the best password at all. But
Actually, the first password you use is password 1.
that's right. There we go. Okay.
But they won't let you go to screen 2 until you change that. So
Gotcha.
You brought up an interesting point about expense reports. In the old days, what do you do with a paper expense report? What do you do with an electronic expense
Send it
report?
to you.
So that is correct. But in your case, I'm sure somebody's paying for your expenses to come here to this meeting and whatever. Under the NetSuite program, electronically, which would send in his expense report. And who's the treasurer of the group?
Oh, right here.
You are, yes. So you would accumulate that electronically, never go to paper. When you create his check, then you can attach his expense report to his record electronically.
Gotcha.
And NetSuite has a file cabinet, it's called a file cabinet. And anybody that has the authority over you could actually look at the background of why you expensed him.
And excellent. So Don, you sort of snuck into that little discussion right there. So not only will NetSuite be used for L50s, it'll also obviously be used to keep track of the checkbook and stuff like that. But what you're also saying is that NetSuite is going to be the way that we enter and process expense reports.
And archive as well.
And also archive. But everything having to do with expense reports will now be done through NetSuite as opposed to the Excel spreadsheets we've been using in the past.
That is correct.
Thank you. You sort of snuck into that one, so I just wanted to double check.
Well, I can link in, like, if you do PDFs of scans of all your receipts and stuff, it goes
You
in there as
can do
well.
them in multiple formats, PDF, Excel, any of those different file formats can be stored in the file cabinet.
So
Yes.
the expense report will be also through this system? Or?
Yes, well, it will still come by email to the treasurer, and then they will export it into the system and file it permanently in the system.
Okay, but suppose I am going to have an expense report, I go in the same way like we used to do. Correct?
Yes, you use the IEEE expense form,
Oh,
and which is
okay.
just the regular IEEE Excel expense form. And then you send it to the appropriate person, gets the authority to do it. If, like, Lee is approving it, then Lee would approve it, and then I would get it, and then we would attach it as part of the record.
And so, and I apologize, thank you very much for asking that question. So we will still fill out, I apologize, the Excel spreadsheet as part of an expense.
Yes.
Okay, we will send it in. It sounds like the system has the ability to save it, but it's not going to scan it and read the numbers and fill it in or do anything automatic like that. It's, okay, all right. So effectively, does the treasurer do anything outside of write a check for that expense report, or just hold on to the expense report as a record that gets associated with the check? There's no.
Restate your question.
Okay. The expense report has a series of what I'm getting reimbursed for, travel or food or what
Yes.
have you,
Each line entry.
which is all very interesting. But that doesn't get
You
entered.
just move the bottom line over into your accounting system.
Yeah, that doesn't get entered into NetSuite.
That is correct.
It
Only
just-
the bottom line.
Just the check, and then the Excel file, shall we say, is associated with the check, and it's recorded in NetSuite forever and ever.
Forever and ever.
I fully understand. Okay.
Now, NetSuite doesn't record anything about approval for the expense report.
Not specifically.
Now,
Yes, sir.
like in Quicken, if you have an expense, it
It
can
was
be
like
put on
Quicken.
two accounts, like for example.
Yes, you can
have an
split
expense
accounts.
account, and part of it was to go to this meeting,
Yes.
and part of it was to get some books or something.
Yes.
And then, so you could have it.
You could charge it to
the same
5
way.
accounts if you want to.
Okay, so you can set up with these little, I guess they're called accounts, Quicken,
Yes.
and this was.
Yeah.
One more question.
Go right ahead.
Now, can this, when I send in my expense report on the Excel sheet, does he have to write a check, or can he just have it put into my checking account?
No, not happening, Betty. You'll be getting a postal check from me, is how you'll be paid.
Okay.
And-
The answer is yes and yes. He has the capability, but he won't be using that capability. Only regions 7, 8, 9, and 10 normally use the EFT portion of the project. So in their case, they are dealing with money across different countries. So what they do is they set up a local account with a local bank. They issue the check in the local currency. Let's say you're in France and you're in Switzerland. And the check is written in England. So it will be deposited in England and electronically transferred to your account in franc or euros, whichever it might be, and your account in Swiss francs, I guess they are. Anyway, it can break it down by country and it goes electronically. In the US, we will not be using that system.
Will that happen in the future?
It probably will, but Jim is a little nervous about giving you his account number at his bank, so that's the issue of.
Ever since that L50 signing with the left-hand, right-hand thing, I just have not been comfortable at all.
I guess the question was that I might not be so queasy about giving to IEEE, and so he just says, I approve his checks, and then IEEE puts it in my check.
Yeah, but remember,
We'd
you're
kind
giving
of like to get S&H green stamps instead.
Yes.
We'll get a green stamp.
And the CRPS switches from their account.
Okay, right now it will be a hard check.
hard check, as per current process.
Okay.
Very good question. Now, going back to another,
You know, every time you send this.
So be it.
Jim or one of you asked about a conference and you're taking money in or whatever. You can actually issue invoices through this system. So some vendors prefer to have an invoice before they give you money. So you can create an account, ledger account, and you go in just like if I were creating one for you, I would create one for them as to who they are, what their mailing address is, et cetera, et cetera. And then I go in and I would create an invoice for them to actually hand money to you. So, and then you account for it through your accounting system when it's arrived. Good question. Other questions? Have I confused you? Yes.
What about all the IEEE big conferences, the national level, international conference, you can still use the system?
In the long range, yes. Right today, they're not rolling conferences into this system.
I am the treasurer for the antenna symposium in 2013.
Probably by then, probably by late, I'm going to guess third quarter of 12, we're going to have conferences ready to go. Not, a small conference could go probably tomorrow because the account system is there. But big conferences that are complicated probably would wait until a major rollout. And there's a group called POCO that does instructions on how to do conferences. And POCO is working with the group at NetSuite to get everything they need to make that happen. So the conference committee is working on that separate from the MGA people. Yes?
One final question.
There are no final questions, it's just the next sheet.
I'm not the treasurer anymore.
Congratulations.
I may have again because our treasurer is getting kind of ill and somebody has to take him. But that's beside the point. How do I get this information that you've given me to our treasurer? Is there a website or?
Okay. Jim is going to share this information.
Oh, you're gonna make the video?
I am.
Oh.
I'm going to give him
It's
like
gonna go viral.
Okay.
Because
okay,
the
that's
Rappin' Don is going to be as big as like cats that play the piano soon.
going up on YouTube.
Yes.
I have 6 instructional files that I'm going to share with Jim, and Jim is going to attach those also and share with all of the Florida Council. And you can wade through them at your leisure or as you need to, whichever the case
Okay,
is.
whoever gets stuck with the treasurer's job.
That is correct. Inside NetSuite, there is a help section on everything that you have to do in there. So if you click on something and you don't know what to do with it, you go over and you hit click, or you do your search engine. It's just like every other program out there right now, and it will help you accomplish whatever it is you're trying to do. Any other good questions?
Will you fly down and help us anytime we need it?
You said good question.
So Don,
That was a good
just to come up with a timeline for this, I guess this is great information. I guess the message that we need to take back to all the treasurers is L50 creation for 2011 will be done using the NetSuite tool. And I guess for a lot of treasurers, that will be their first encounter with it.
That's correct.
When could they start using it for the checkbook?
The day after.
Oh, after they get the L50 done?
Once they get their, essentially they can start at any time, but there's an issue about your close of the year. You want to get all the entries for the close of the year into the L50. And so essentially you could, like if you do your L50 on January the 30th, let's say.
Right.
You would have already maybe made 20 transactions or 10 transactions that you need to book into the new year. That's fine. Go ahead and book those in.
I got
You
you.
can go ahead and use NetSuite prior to your completion of the L50. It knows the difference between last year's data and this year's.
I got you. All right, so do the L50 in NetSuite also, but then basically for keeping track of your checkbook for your part of IEEE, consider NetSuite being the tool that you'll use for all of 2012. So
Forever.
and beyond, but it starts on January 1st as the tool that you use.
That's
Is
correct.
one way to think. All right, just wanted to double check with you.
And just so that you know, and it's not a secret, everybody above you will have access, a view access, not a writing access, but a view access of what you're doing in NetSuite.
Excellent.
And that's part of the reason of doing it, is to give headquarters a better idea of whether you've got $10 in your ledger or $20.
In other words, we're going to tell you how to hide it.
That's right.
So anyway, that's going to give them the ability to do, if you've ever wondered why you do the L50, it's because headquarters needs to know where everything is and whatever all the monies were spent in every year.
One other thing, in terms of looking at the ledger, the way you say, is there a place to put in accounts payable that you haven't actually paid yet?
Accounts payable that you haven't actually paid yet. I'm going to defer on that. I don't know the answer to that. I know we did invoicing.
Butch, can you come up with a scenario for that?
Well, I mean, for example, you may know that you're going to owe the hotel $2,000 for meals, and so in terms of knowing what your bottom line actually is, you have to put that in as an account payable, but you don't actually write the check until after the meal or something like that.
Right, but don't they have to present you with a bill for that?
Yeah, but
Okay.
still, if you have to get the bill, it may not cut the check right away.
Well, no, that's true, but it doesn't exist in the system until they present you with a bill, I think is the thought.
Right. The other part of that would be your budgeting. You could actually budget that you're going to do it, and it would be in, if you're doing a project, then you could see that your project is paid, budget, unpaid yet.
But outstanding debts are only entered when you actually cut the check, is what you're saying.
The system can only deal with what it knows as opposed to planned.
Good question.
I've got one for you.
Fire.
You just mentioned budgets. Can you develop and maintain your annual budget within the system
Inside
as
the
well?
system, yes. The only thing it won't do right now easily is to backload your prior history budgets that you're comparing to. But what will happen is after you do this coming year, the 2012 budget.
From then
in there,
on, you could
from
get
then
that
on, you
annual
can do the
comparison.
annual comparison.
That's good.
It does some charting, it does some other things inside there, it does graphs. They don't recommend using the graphs because they're not as good as Quicken or Excel, but you're still welcome to use the graphs, as crude and rude as they are as right now. So. Osama, do you have any questions?
You look good.
Excellent. Good job, Don.